Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. In this video I'll be showing you my orchid collection. I've had a few people asking how my orchids are doing, and it's also been a while since I've done a video about my orchids. So most of it will be about my Phalaenopsis orchids, as I've got quite a few of them, whereas I've got one Dendrobium Orchid as well that I'll also be doing. So first one will be Phalaenopsis orchids. They haven't been dusted for a long time, so I'm going to dust them all up. Once they've been fully dusted I'll show you them, because they don't look so nice when they're a bit dusty. You can see I've kind of neglected the leaves for quite a long time, and there's quite a thick layer of dust now forming on them. So I'm just going to use some tissue paper. That's what I'm going to use for this. I'm just going to dust all the leaves off. So that's the worst of the dust taken off them. So I'll probably also give them a foliar feed later on. It's just a quick spray I use. It's diluted SP plant invigorator. It basically just cleans the leaves and has a mild soap in it, which helps to keep down any insect pests as well, and also powdery mildew. So I'll start with my smallest orchid. It's been a while since I've done a video on this one, and I think in the last video I repotted it and it was just starting to grow roots again, because in the past it lost all its roots because it rotted off as it was in a sphagnum peat moss, which was too wet and too soggy for it, so it wasn't able to grow properly. So since then I've had mixed results. It's grown a lot of roots, which is good. You can see there's one right down here which is almost at the bottom now. Get that in focus for you. And there's also another one starting to grow down, but the ones that were on top, they're no longer in the compost anymore, and the whole plant has lifted out. And the reason for that is because as the new root has grown down, it's actually been pushing, and unfortunately it's actually pushed the plant up. So I'm going to have to take this out of the pot and replant it. It's a shame, but once it's planted in properly and it has more than one root facing down, then the new roots that do grow shouldn't push it out the pot in such the same way. So I'll get to this one last because it's starting to flower. This one here is the one which I've shown you previously. It has huge purple flowers. I'll just put in a picture now so you can have an idea of what it used to be like. So this is probably my favourite Phalaenopsis orchid. You can see it's got huge leaves. They're really big, a lot bigger than any of the other Phalaenopsis leaves that I have. It's also a very healthy big plant. It's currently growing a new leaf at the moment, and when it does flower it has lots of purple flowers. And as I said, I think in a previous video, I think it was about 24 flowers it had in the spike at any one time. So this is a really good one, a really good shower. As you can see, it's healthy as ever. I'll start feeding it soon, because I haven't fed it all over winter, but come February time I'll probably start just a little bit of feed, just to keep it ticking over. But no signs of flowers yet, but I'm expecting, as it's getting cooler now, it might be flowering probably the end of February, something like that. So my other orchid is a large white one here. As I said, these are all Phalaenopsis orchids, or moth orchids. This one's always really healthy. It's also got the healthiest of root systems as well. You can see lots of bright green roots, looking really healthy. I wait for them to dry out a little bit and go silvery before I water it. This one's got the best root system of any of the plants. Also got nice healthy leaves. As I say, this is a pure white orchid. No signs of flower buds on this one either, but same with the last orchid. I'm expecting it to come in February. And then this one here I got probably about 3 years ago, no, maybe 2 years ago. 10p in a store because it had finished flowering. And what happened when I brought it home is it lost nearly all its leaves. I think it's only got this one that it kept, and it's grown all these leaves since then, and it's had one period of flowering since, and it was okay, but it didn't have many leaves, so it didn't have a lot of flowers. But as you can see, it's currently growing new leaves, so it's in its growth stage. So I'm thinking it's going to have a much better flowering display this year, because it's got a lot more leaves, so it should have a lot more energy built up. And as I say, this one might flower again in February time when it cools down, like the other ones tend to do. So the next challenge for me is my miniature Phalaenopsis orchid, and I'll need to transplant that and get it into its pot properly. So I'll just take it out of its ornamental pot, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to shake out all the old growing medium, and I will actually be using the same medium again, because there's nothing wrong with it. It's quite good growing medium. It's quite new as well. It's only a few months old, so it can be reused. You can see there, new roots are quite healthy looking. Get that in focus. A little bit of damage there, but it's still growing, so it's still healthy, and it's got a second one with active growth here. Other ones, these two have stopped growing, but this one has a tiny bit of active growth on the tip. You can just see past the silvery point, there's a very light green section. I'll get the close up on that so it's more clearly visible. You can see that bright green tip at the end is its new growth coming on, and you can see this one's the healthiest. It's got a lot of bright green on the end of it. So what we're doing with this is, I would say, just planting it again, but a bit deeper so that it doesn't grow out of its pot again. So I'm just going to hold the leaves up, make sure there's nothing stuck to it already. Hold the leaves higher up, like this, so that they don't get in the way. Carefully position the roots towards the bottom. Being very careful not to snap them, because they are very easily snapped, the roots on these. You can see that one's already quite bent from maybe a previous injury. So I want it about that depth. And then I'm just going to try and fill in with all the growing medium around it. I'm just shaking it every now and again to try and get it in between the roots, because it can be quite hard getting it between the roots. So there we are, that's it planted a lot deeper than it was before. It's still a little bit wobbly, so I've got to be careful. I'll try and keep these roots down, but otherwise I'm quite happy with that. It didn't snap any roots, and hopefully that'll do better now that it's properly rooted in. So the next orchid I'm going to show you is my Dendrobium Orchid. So here's my Dendrobium Orchid. I've had it now for over a year. When I first had it, it only had this stem at the back and this tiny little stem coming up at the bottom. So it's basically just two, you can just see there. So since then it's grown up all these new shoots, some of them even taller now than the original cane. And last time when it flowered, it only flowered on this one cane at the back. The little shoot was still growing, so it didn't have any flowers on it. But what I've done now is, after a good summer's growth, I cut back on the feeding, and gave it the coldest place I could find, which is one of my rooms. I didn't put it outside because it's really too cold in the UK to have a Dendrobium Orchid outside, but I've had it in a room which doesn't get any heating. It's probably about 10 degrees most of the time, which is maybe a little bit too cold, but it's done the trick. It's induced it into flowering. So you can see here, all the way up the stem, there's lots of little flower buds starting to appear. I can show you them closer up as well. So you can see here, plenty of flower buds starting to grow all up the stem. This one at the back here is the most developed. You can see there it's even starting to split into several different flowers. So they start off like this, just very small, and then grow slowly into the flower buds. So hopefully in a few months, in about a month or two's time, this should be a good flower display. All I'm going to do in this video, there's a few dead leaves in the pot and a couple of dead leaves on the stem. If they're brown, I'll take them off. These yellow ones I won't quite yet because they're not too loose. This one's loose, so I'll take that off, but I'm only taking them off if they're loose. That one's still a bit secure. And then I'll just tidy up these dead leaves, which are just clustering in the bottom. So I haven't been watering it much. It's been very dry. I've only given it the occasional water. The reason for that is because where this grows in the wild, it needs a dry cold period. It has a dry cold period, and that's when it decides to flower. So I'm just basically mimicking what it gets in the wild. So it's, as I say, it's been in a cold room and it hasn't had much water, and because of that it's induced it into flowering. So hopefully I'll get a good display. This is the first time I've ever had one that I've induced a flower, so it'll be interesting to see how it does. I'll also maybe rearrange the display slightly once the flowers have come on it, because I can change the position of these stems using the bamboo canes. At the moment it's quite uneven distribution. I might change them a bit more just to make sure all the ones are on display. So there's, for example, this one at the back which will be flowering. I'll probably move in front of this one because that one at the very back won't be flowering, but this one will, so it needs to come a bit more prominent. But otherwise I'm quite happy with it. And I think that's it for my... Oh, there's one more Phalaenopsis orchid which I've almost forgotten. So here it is, my last orchid. So this Phalaenopsis orchid I got for my girlfriend quite a while ago, and it's the only one that I've got at the moment which is actually starting to put up a flower stem. You can see here it's put on a lot of growth. It's got a lovely healthy flower stem there. So you can see it's got lots and lots of flowers. This one is a variety that always seems to branch quite a lot. So you can see it's got a couple of branches coming on it, and they will also turn into flower spikes like that. So there's not much need to do with this now. The only thing you have to do really is make sure that the flower stem is kept trained so that it doesn't just grow any which way. So I'm going to support it by just clipping it. I've got some little butterfly clips here, clipping it down at the base where it first meets the bamboo cane, and then I'm going to hold it up a little bit and just clip it on here where it leaves the bamboo cane. So I'll just keep an eye on it. I may try and train this up a little bit with a wire, we'll see, and I'll just keep an eye on these other two stems, see where they go. But otherwise this has been doing well. It's got an old flower stem there which hasn't died back yet. I cut that one back hoping to encourage it to flower, but decided to grow a whole new stem instead. Now this one's a dwarf Phalaenopsis. You can see the leaves are much smaller and the flowers will be a lot smaller than my other orchids, but despite being smaller flower size, the flower number is still really good. So that's it for now for my Phalaenopsis orchids, and I'll give you guys an update hopefully when they start flowering in a couple of months.